This is something else, man.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Independent Producers Organization live showcase. It's glad to have you with us. We have a call-in person from California, Californians for Population Stabilization. And I'll get him on the line right away, and he's going to introduce himself. I think, Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I need the sound up just a little more, if you can do that. Can you raise his sound a little bit? That's better. Yeah, that's great.
That was him.
Okay, Joe. You're still there, right?
We can't hear him, though. We can't hear him still.
I'm Joe Gazzardi, a senior writing fellow from Californians for Population Stabilization, headquartered in Santa Barbara.
Awesome.
And I've been studying and writing about immigration for about 30 years.
Wow.
So that qualifies me as an expert, for better or for worse.
I think so.
Okay, now you can't see him, but my my co-host rather, is Bruce Broussard, who ran for mayor, and you ran for.
I ran for governor in 2003 during the recall Gray Davis election. That is the election that ended up with Arnold Schwarzenegger
Wow.
taking the gubernatorial seat from Gray Davis, who was indeed recalled.
Right. Okay. Okay. Great.
Congratulations.
Did you have anything more first, or?
Well, yes. I think one of the things that is interesting about how I became involved in immigration is that I made a career change in 1986. I had been involved in the finance industry, and I returned to California. I'm a native Californian, born and raised in Los Angeles, and I had moved away, held some jobs after college on the East Coast, and I returned to California in 1986 and took a job teaching English as a second language at the in the California public school system. So it was through that experience that I got really firsthand knowledge about and firsthand information about how the immigration system worked, because my students were English as a second language learners. So I became acquainted with them and their stories, and that's pretty much how it all began.
Okay.
Also interesting is that in 1986, that was the year that the that was the year that the Immigration Reform and Control Act passed, Ronald Reagan's amnesty in 1986. And a lot of my students were involved in that whole process. So I got another very close-hand look at how it all works, and learned a lot about how it works that people don't read in the newspapers or don't really know about, couldn't possibly know about in any other way.
Okay. One of the things we've been looking at here is an article actually it was in the Sunday paper, of 65 million people that are essentially traveling the earth homeless. And it's just hard to believe that there's that many that are on the move. And I even had it printed out here. They just don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with that many people. And who can come up with it? All these...
Very, very troubling for sure. A lot of people on the move, a lot of people who are trying to escape totalitarian governments And, of course, the number one destination for a good many of those people, or would-be destination, is the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And it's troubling to think that the United States doesn't have a more well-defined policy of what it can do with refugee resettlement without completely disrupting the fabric and the makeup of the United States. It's something that needs to be thought through very carefully and should not be a political pawn in an election cycle or anything like that. But we've seen, certainly in the last few months here, maybe the last couple of years, that it's not thought through hardly at all.
Okay.
We've got all kinds, what we have basically is the President of the United States who is committed to taking in an additional 10,000, mostly Syrian refugees, but also some Iraqis in there. And we have him telling the nation that no need to worry, they're being thoroughly vetted. And then the next thing you know, you pick up the newspaper and you learn that, well, the vetting period, which used to be 18 to 24 months, has now been slashed to 3 months to help President Obama meet his goal. And you also have the FBI Director, James Comey, and other security experts, too, continuing to insist that the Syrians cannot be vetted at all, whether you're talking about 3 months or 24 months. There's not enough background data available on their histories to perform any kind of consequential vetting. So
and
that's where we are on refugee resettlement.
And that's not even getting to the jobs that they're taking away from American citizens.
Exactly. That's a great point, and one that's almost never mentioned in the mainstream media. Every one of the refugees that's come in during the past decade, and all of the ones that are coming in and all of the ones that will come in, get work permits. They are work authorized from day one. And what that means is that they can go out and compete with American citizens for jobs that become open, or even more unsettling, and there's ample evidence of this, they can be hired by legally hired by unscrupulous employers who can pay them less money than they've been paying Americans or than they are willing to pay Americans, because these are refugees who don't have many options. So a job comes up in their community that maybe should pay $12 or $15 an hour. The unscrupulous employer says, well, I can give you the job, but I can only pay you $8 an hour. There's a lot of that going on out there.
That's right. The savings on workers goes to the capitalist investments. It's just a transfer of money.
Exactly. It's a huge transfer of wealth, the beneficiaries of which are the corporate elite and the top 1% of the United States income earners. And it's a really, truly bad thing for Americans who have paid into the system and who are maybe even they've given up trying to get ahead, but they just like to not get further behind. I mean, there hasn't been a real increase in wages in maybe 20 years, possibly even longer. So people are, unfortunately, have grown accustomed to that. And a lot of people are at a point in their lives where they're saying, look, I just don't want to get any further behind. You know, I don't want to lose my job to a refugee to help President Obama meet some political objective, or I don't want to lose my job to an illegal immigrant who's working off the books. all of those kinds of things have really put Americans on edge and made them very angry with their government.
I got a story I want to tell you that happened. It could have been 4 or 8 years ago, but it happened here. Involved Del Monte, the fruit packing company, and all of a sudden one day, they came and cleaned out 120 illegal aliens and ICE, I guess you call it.
Right.
And they got them completely out of there. Within a few days, every position was filled by an American citizen. I could never get over that. That means all those people were just waiting to go back to work, but somebody cheaper or whatever has taken over their job.
There have been many cases like that, and also every time there's a job fair anywhere in the United States, you've got hundreds of people showing up to these job fairs with the hope that they'll be able to land a decent paying job. There's something like 94 million Americans who are detached from the workforce, meaning they're either working part-time, not of their own choosing, involuntary part-time, or they've given up looking for jobs. And every month the Bureau of Labor Statistics report comes out, always, or not always, but very often spun as a positive report because, say, like last month's report, 255,000 jobs. But then you look at those jobs and you look at the underlying data and you see that those jobs are in the service industry, bartending, waiting tables, the kinds of jobs that don't pay very well, that are part-time, possibly even part-time and temporary. So that's where the American economy really is. There's virtually no manufacturing jobs whatsoever.
Joe, I've had a request for your phone number down there at CAPS.
Sure. 805-705-8290.
Got it. Okay. While we're on that subject, I was going to comment about something Frosty Woolridge said. Paying for other cultures to mass immigrate into your country to outbreed and replace you doesn't make you a more tolerant or better person. It makes you a fool. I think he's right on with that.
Well, Frosty is a friend of mine for all of the 30 years that I've been involved in immigration. And
same here.
I agree totally with that statement, with that perspective. And I have a different way of saying the same thing. And what I call it is financing our own displacement. I mean, we're paying to have ourselves, to have the American way of life completely and totally stolen out from under us. And all of these things are made possible through taxpayer funding, involuntary taxpayer funding, I might add. In California, we have, this is a statistic that may surprise many people in your audience, but we have approximately 1.5 million students in the California K-12 public school system that do not speak English. 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Now, the total school enrollment is about 6 million. So 25% of the California public school enrollment does not speak English. Now, if you take the average daily cost of educating a student in California, that figure is about $10,000 per student per year.
Gee.
$15 billion to educate non-English speaking students per annum in California. 1 year.
When I read your information about how much was going out on welfare and health and education, everything to do with these illegal aliens, I wonder where could that much money be coming from, except us. It just seems incredible that there's that much money going out for them.
It's something that's not really fully realized by the majority of people in California. I mean, if you were to ask the average Californian, well, do you think taxpayers subsidize illegal immigrants in the state of California? I mean, obviously the answer to that would be, oh, yes, definitely so. But then if you started saying, well, okay, but do you know that the state pays $15 billion alone for educating non-English speaking students? I mean, I should point out here that not all of those 1.5 million non-English speaking students are illegal immigrants, right? Some of them are anchor babies who don't speak English, and some of them may be the children of legal immigrants, but at least a third of them are illegal immigrants. So if you went down line by line and said, well, this is what we're spending for education, and this is what we're spending for public housing, and this is what we're spending for emergency medical care.
Yeah.
People don't know that total, and it really is a shocking total.
Wow.
And in California, we've been cursed by leadership. Wrong word, but I'm using it for lack of a better one. But governors, United States senators, and certainly the California Assembly that has been all in on illegal immigration. So
okay.
That's how we find ourselves where we are.
No, that's right. That's right. It said there's more than 300 sanctuary cities. So we know San Francisco is one of them. I had no idea there were almost 300 more where they're protected from deportation. You go back to Eisenhower. He got sent 1 million back to their own countries when he was in office. Why is it so hard to do that now?
Well, it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do in any way, but you have to have people in office who are willing to do it. And it could be done both in terms of actual deportation, or it could be done indirectly by putting laws in place that make it untenable for illegal immigrants to continue to live unlawfully in the United States. I'm thinking most specifically of E-Verify. You know, you pass mandatory E-Verify, and that means that to hold a job in the United States, the individual must be either an American citizen or a legal immigrant. Now, mandatory E-Verify has passed the House of Representatives at least 3 different times since 2010, at least twice, and I believe 3 times since 2010. So it passes the Judiciary Committee. The next logical step is for it to go to the full House of Representatives for a vote. It's never gone to the full House of Representatives for a vote because John Boehner and then Paul Ryan refused to put it up for a vote. So there it is.
What can Paul Ryan benefit from by doing this against so many people that don't want that?
He's perhaps the most ideologically committed to the idea of open borders, the free flow of people, the free flow of goods, refugee resettlement, all of the things that the vast majority of Americans want paused at a minimum, if not completely, if not having a complete moratorium imposed. Ryan is all for all of it. Boehner was almost as staunch in his advocacy for illegal immigration as Ryan, but not quite. So when you've got a guy who's managing what bills get sent up to the floor for a vote, who doesn't want to hear about E-Verify, like Boehner and like Ryan, it makes it impossible to get that kind of legislation passed. Of course, it doesn't help that Obama is opposed to it also. So you've got basically insurmountable opposition to mandatory E-Verify. But you mentioned it just a couple of minutes ago about sanctuary cities. If we had 24 hours instead of 1 hour to list all of the outrages of illegal immigration, we probably could count them all. But right up toward the top would be this complete farce of sanctuary cities. I mean, first of all, they're illegal on their face. It's against the federal law to not cooperate with immigration officials when they request information or when they request action from a local law enforcement. So right off the top, they're wrong. And then once you get past that, or if you could get past that, the consequences of these sanctuary cities is just an unbelievably long history of hideous murders and rapes and all types of crime. The Kate Steinle case in San Francisco was headline news, but there have been so many others, including one just a couple of months ago up in your area on the blueberry farm there. And they just go on and on and on, and then you have people saying to you with a straight face, well, sanctuary cities make our community, sanctuary city policies make our communities safer. Kate Steinle, for example, gets shot dead by a 5-time deported, 7-time convicted felon, and the San Francisco Board of Supervisors says, we're not changing that policy because sanctuary cities make our communities safer. So what do you say to that? I mean, it's just so annoying that it defies a response.
That one case in the paperwork you sent to me of that guy that cut up his friend, he stabbed him 89 times or something.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible, and then tore out some of his insides. And that's after being sent back there, right? Either once or twice.
Right, yeah, this was in Maryland, I think, or Virginia. Maryland, pretty sure it was in Maryland. Yeah, he had been previously deported, and he had been released. ICE had put a detainer out on him, and he had been released. This is a guy from Salvador, which has some of the most cutthroat murderers around.
Wow.
And which have organized this notoriously brutal gang, MS-13. Yes, this guy cut up his best friend and stabbed him all of those 80-odd times.
But the main thing was we couldn't keep him out of the country.
Well, because that's exactly right. If you could, I mean, these guys get deported. So what happens is people might say, well, we deported him. I mean, we deported him, but he came back.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, well, why did he come back? How is it possible for somebody who's been deported to come back? And not only come back once, but come back 5 times or 6 times. The guy in Oregon was 6 times deported. the fellow up there that killed 3 people in the blueberry farm, I think he was deported 6 times.
Oh.
Anyway,
Okay.
well, you know, because the border is wide open. That's why. Now, if you had true border enforcement, if you had agents and National Guard and whatever other types of law enforcement figures on the border, you wouldn't have a situation where people could just be deported and then walk right back over the very next day. And if you had internal enforcement, which is essentially non-existent in the United States. You know, you mentioned Eisenhower a few minutes ago. I mean, under the Eisenhower administration, there was internal enforcement. You had INS agents that checked out workplaces and day labor centers and the like, and they made sure, to the best of their ability, and they worked very hard at it, they made sure that if you were present in the interior of the United States illegally, you were going to be sent back. And they didn't just send you back to Tijuana. You know, they would take you back to the Mexico-Guatemala border. So it was tough. If you had thoughts about coming back into the United States, you had a long way to go to get back in.
Just curious, how do they get them down there? Is it
Well, they would transport them down there. I mean, the United States INS agents, through different sources, they would get them down to some point in northern or central Mexico, and then physically put them on a bus that would get, you know, the next stop was the Mexico-Guatemala border. So that's how they did it.
Okay.
But now, I mean, now there was an interview in the Los Angeles Times about a year ago, and the former director of ICE, of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was interviewed by a Los Angeles Times reporter. And the ICE agent, the former ICE director, said, you know, realistically, the odds of what he called a run-of-the-mill immigrant, illegal immigrant, the odds of a run-of-the-mill illegal immigrant getting deported are close to 0. That was his words, close to 0. In other words, if you're an illegal immigrant and you come to Los Angeles or Portland or New York, and you're just kind of hanging around minding your own business, you're not involved in any kind of crimes, you're not high visibility in any way, the chances of you getting deported are like 0. So that's what passes for internal enforcement in the Obama administration.
Well, in that example, that person would probably try to work and try to send money back. Would that be right?
Sure. I mean, they've got to either, once somebody comes to the United States, either legally or illegally, they've got to have income. So that means they're either going to apply for public services or they're going to get a job. So there's a case where E-Verify would be absolutely crucial. Guy doesn't have any means. He's got no particular skills. He certainly doesn't have access to enough money to sustain himself, so he needs a job. He goes to any place, you know, a retail outlet or agricultural work site, and applies for a job, and E-Verify says, hey, this guy's in the United States illegally. You, the employer, could be penalized severely if you hire him. And that's the other, you know, that's the other thing, too, that never seems to happen. Employers should be penalized meaningfully, not some slap on the wrist token fine, but meaningful penalties, and a little bit of jail time wouldn't hurt either, so that employers would think twice before they hire illegal immigrants.
Oh, yeah, for the employer. Okay.
Yeah, for the employer, right? Exactly.
All right.
I believe there was a big case up in the Pacific Northwest, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Zirkle Fruit, you know that
Yep.
outfit? They're kind of like Del Monte, you know, they're a big grower, and
Okay.
they had, there was an Immigration and Customs Enforcement raid up there, and they found all kinds of collusion among the management team to hire illegal immigrants and to falsify I-9 documents and you know, just a series of felonious employment crimes. And, you know, the president of the company got some $10,000 fine, and, you know, it was just ridiculous. I mean, it was just the kind of thing that a corporation, a big company would laugh at. I mean, it's just not a meaningful amount. Nobody did any jail time, even though the law calls for fines and or jail time. But again, another example of immigration laws that are not enforced.
Okay. That's just overwhelming, all this stuff. Just
Well,
so much.
it is overwhelming, and I think there's a couple of things that are going on that are interesting in the sense that when I got started in this, say, 30 years ago, you know, you talked a little bit about immigration, and people kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, well, we're, you know, a little bit of immigration doesn't hurt, diversity, people coming to find a better life, you know, all of the platitudes that we still hear today. But now you're finding more and more people who are saying, you know, we've got a lot of immigration. We've got an unsustainable amount of immigration. What we've got now is an immigration policy that's on autopilot every year, no matter what. 1 million new legal permanent residents come to the United States. It doesn't matter if the economy's in the tank. You get 1 million legal immigrants. It doesn't matter if there's a mortgage meltdown that lasts for 5 years or longer. You get 1 million legal immigrants. It doesn't matter if California has 40 million people and all of the new people in California are either immigrants or the children of immigrants. The United States gets 1 million new immigrants every year. So people are starting to say, hey, you know, that's not a sustainable policy. It needs to be reviewed. I mean, you know, look at your major cities. I was just in Washington, D.C. You know, I go to New York. I go to Los Angeles. I just got back from San Francisco. There's a lot of immigration in those cities. And people are starting to wake up and say, well, maybe it really is time for a pause or a moratorium.
Yeah,
I mean,
pause.
You know, the projections, the Census Bureau projections for population growth in the United States predict that by like 2050, there's going to be 475 million people in the United States. We're at 325 million now, so that's an additional 150 million people. Almost all of it attributable to immigration. So what's the country going to look like?
It's,
well,
our culture is at stake. That's exactly what it is.
Absolutely that.
And
Yeah, absolutely that.
Everybody wants to change it to their culture, too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, first of all, I would say, well, what is the big rush to change it? I mean, what was so bad that it's got to be changed? And then I would say, why? I mean, what is the objective? Do you want the United States to be like Mexico? Or do you want the United States to be like the Middle East? Or do you want the United States to be like Germany, like today's Germany?
Like United States.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
so these are questions, and it's, I've mentioned Obama's name a couple of times here, but I got to point out that Bush had a big hand in this kind of thing too.
I wanted to comment to do with Obama. This goes back, I don't know, again, 10 years, something like that, probably not that long. And he did something major, like to do with the DREAM thing, and let a whole bunch of people become citizens or temporary or something like that. And when I realized what he was doing it so that he would get more votes. And I said, I'm embarrassed that have someone, shall we say, that crooked, doing something like that so they can get more votes that way instead of doing it the right way. Just wanted to make a comment about that in particular.
Right. Well, I think the program that you're talking about, I don't know, Obama has done lots of things to gut immigration enforcement. And for those in the audience that are interested in finding out what they all are, they can go to Senator Jeff Sessions, United States Senator Jeff Sessions' website, and he has got a list of like 75 to 100 different things that Obama has done that directly violate immigration law. But to get back to your point, Richard, you are, I believe, talking about deferred action for childhood arrivals, a program that Obama unilaterally signed off on that would give young illegal immigrants, basically illegal immigrants but that had not reached the age of 30 and who came to the United States as infants, it would give them protection from deportation and, just as we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, work permits. So you're a 25-something-year-old illegal immigrant. You either haven't been able to get a job because you're not work authorized, or you've been forced to take a menial job because that's all you can get. Maybe you're paid under the table. All of a sudden you have a work permit and you can work legally anywhere.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of thing that people are up against. And when the media reported on that program, they reported it almost exclusively as a program that was intended to shield these young, supposedly victims of their parents' illegal entry. It would provide the children with protection from being deported, but they never mentioned that there was a work permit involved in the package. And as we were saying here just a couple of minutes ago, nobody's getting deported anyway. So it's completely ludicrous to say, well, we're going to protect this group or this category of immigrant or that category of immigrant from deportation, because nobody's getting deported anyway. Even criminals aren't getting deported. Yes. They're getting re-released. So it's very important, the people, I think, in general, I don't know, Oregon is a mostly liberal state. Do you see any growing resistance to lawlessness on immigration enforcement
I think
at all?
you're right.
Your way?
You're right about the liberal state situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
the status quo is okay up in Oregon?
It's pro-choice. That'd be one of the best ways to describe the liberal situation, which I don't have a problem with. But
yeah. Well, you had a nice win up there on the driver's licenses, though.
Yeah, I know that I had to go down, I think, to Social Security, get proof, and take it out to their office to show that I was able to be a driver in Oregon. So I don't see all these aliens doing that same thing. They didn't do, I don't think they're doing what I had to do. I had to prove totally that I was a citizen. Social Security, everything.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me if you had to meet higher standards than illegal immigrants do for, to get a driver's licenses. California just started its program last year. Driver's licenses for illegal immigrants had been vetoed repeatedly in California for 20 or 25 years. And, the immigration lobby just keeps coming back. They are defeated on Monday, and on Tuesday they're back with a new bill.
Yeah.
And finally, when Jerry Brown got into office, a very radically pro-illegal immigration governor, he got in. The Hispanic Assembly wrote and passed the bill, and Brown signed it. And now, if you're an illegal immigrant in California, you can get a driver's license.
Wow.
And Brown said, well, it's important that they have driver's licenses because without them they can't get to their jobs, without mentioning that
they've
it's
taken
illegal
from
for them to be working.
We didn't pass that one.
Can't get to their jobs that they've taken from American citizens.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah. So Brown is, Brown has got, I think, 2 more years in office, and Barbara Boxer is retiring, but her likely replacement is going to be worse on immigration than she was. The state attorney general, Kamala Harris, is the front runner for that Senate job. So, that's just where it is. But
we haven't even covered directly overpopulation, because immigration is so much a part of too many people. But
right.
Overpopulation is so important. And I was just thinking, I had an idea that I think politicians should think seriously about: eliminating all deductions. That includes for children and all that, because we almost passed the point where one child is almost too many. We have to do something, and this has been true with Paxson of Balance, and that's something you can look on the computer about. Paxson's very conscious of that also. So.
Well, I could not agree more with you on that. I mean, it's ridiculous to be giving tax credits for having children. As you point out, it should be just the opposite.
Right. Right.
You want to have children? We can't pass any laws against that, but you're going to pay for those kids yourself because, as you say, population. I mean, there just isn't any way to be able to sustain this crazy growth, both births, natural births to American citizens, and the 1 million legal immigrants that come in every year. Plus, we've been talking about the 1 million legal immigrants, but plus that, there's about 750,000 guest worker visas that are handed out, and you can bet for sure that at least half of them never go home. They just don't go home. The tourists that come to the United States don't go home. There was a hearing.
Why would they want to?
Pardon me?
Why would they want to?
Yeah, why would they want to? Exactly. So somebody comes over on a tourist visa, and they say, well, I'm not going home. And they say they're not going home because they are completely confident that they're not going to be found out. And if they are found out, they're 90% confident that they're not going to be deported. So there was this hearing up on Capitol Hill at the Senate 2 or 3 months ago, and they had some of the Department of Homeland Security officials testifying, and one of the senators said, well, why is it that 40% of all people that come to the United States on visas don't go home? And he said, well, they don't go home because we can't find them. And then the senator said, well, would it be true to say that you can't find them because you're not looking for them? So the guy said, the Department of Homeland Security said, yeah, well, it's true. We're not looking for them. So, again, just know nothing. You would really be hard-pressed to say, this one area of immigration is handled thoughtfully and managed prudently and has the best interests of America at heart. I mean, I can't think of one. Maybe if I'll think about it for a week and maybe I'll be able to come up with something. But the whole idea behind immigration is that it's supposed to benefit America and Americans.
Right.
It's not some willy-nilly deal where anybody who can get across the border can stay, and anybody who comes to go to Disneyland can stay. And it's certainly not about somebody who comes to Disneyland and has a baby and can have that kid be an American citizen. It is certainly not about that.
Hey, Joe, this is Bruce Broussard, Oregon Voters Digest, and I'm really impressed with all of that information and background you're sharing. Boy, I'm mystified. But one thing I'd like to throw on the table with you, it seems as though you've probably given some thoughts about that. We've got a new election here now. We've got a presidential election. We've got, as you know, we've got Donald Trump on the Republican side. We've got Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side, and we've got two other entities that third parties, like the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, and who may be considered might be in the debates, if you will, come September. Have you given any thoughts on looking at these folks and analyzing from the standpoint of how do you think these folks fit in regards to responding to some of the concerns that you have shared with us tonight?
Hillary Clinton is on board as saying that among the first things that she hopes to accomplish are to go further to the left of Barack Obama on immigration. So she wants more immigration. She wants to open some kind of a office of immigration affairs to help expedite more immigration. She wants many more refugees than President Obama. So she has staked out a position even further to the left of Obama, which is very, very hard to conceptualize from where I sit. Now, Donald Trump has made some very strong statements about wanting to end illegal immigration, and so when you compare and contrast those two positions, it's clear that for people who are interested in sensible immigration, I don't know that Trump would be able to totally end illegal immigration, but if he's setting out with that as his goal, okay, if that's what he hopes to accomplish in office, that at least starts you out with some hope. If Hillary Clinton sets out as her goal to widely increase illegal immigration, completely tear down whatever token borders might exist to have still more refugees. I'm not sure that she could accomplish that either, but, you know, that is the direction that she would like to head in. It's interesting because I think it wasn't that long ago that Hillary Clinton actually had some pretty prudent things to say about immigration. She had said that she thought that the Central American minors should be made to return home. She was against driver's licenses for illegal immigrants in New York. But Bernie Sanders kind of pushed her to the left on immigration. And now she's out advocating big time among Latino audiences. She gave a quasi press conference the other day to a group of Hispanic journalists. So that's my take on.
What about those third party deals? Have you given consideration if in fact they were in the debates come September? You think this issue might be brought to the table such that give a better feel for the American people in terms of how they should vote on this issue?
I believe that immigration will definitely be a subject on the debates, no question about that whatsoever. And that's going to be interesting because during up till now, Clinton has only talked about expanding immigration to immigration-friendly audiences. So she goes, for example, to a conference of Hispanic journalists and talks a big game about amnesty and more immigration. Of course, she's got a very receptive audience. But I'm not at all sure that a national audience is going to be receptive to that position. In fact, I'm quite sure that it would not be receptive to it. So I think that's going to represent a really good opportunity for Trump to recapture some of the momentum that he seems to have lost a little bit in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
As far as the third-party candidates go, I don't really know specifically, but I would take a guess that they're probably pro-immigration also. But I'd be surprised if they get on the debate stage.
I got you.
I'd be very surprised.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
I just had another point that I was going to make. At latest records show that 91% of legal immigrants become cyclical welfare recipients because they lack language, educational, and needed skills. They escaped their poverty in their own countries to remanifest their poverty in America.
Wow.
So that would account for a whole lot of them, illegal aliens that come into our country. People that
no
just
doubt.
can't do anything.
I mean, no question about it. I can go back to my teaching days, and there are studies, demographic studies, that have been done about what the makeup of a typical illegal immigrant is, and they are, for the most part, not conversational in English, and they have limited skills. So, by definition, they're going to be poor in America. And if they're poor in America, then they're going to have to get access to welfare. And the easiest way for them to do that is to have an American citizen child who qualifies for welfare, and then they can, they can get in on welfare benefits that way. But when you're looking at immigration, I mean, when people are trying to determine what their individual positions are on immigration, you've got to say, well, is this good for the country? And if you want to be more specific about it, is this good for me? I mean, is it good for me and my family, for example, to continue to allow an unchecked flow of mostly undereducated, mostly non-English speaking immigrants to take up residency in the United States? Well, the answer to that question is cut and dried. The answer is no. It's not good for you. It's not good for your family. And it's not good for the United States. The interesting thing, too, is, and I for the life of me don't understand why politicians don't make more of this issue. It's horrible for black Americans. Absolutely horrible for black Americans. So why a majority of black Americans are all in for Hillary Clinton and all in for more immigration, where there's going to be more people competing for the mostly low-wage jobs that so many black Americans and minority Americans hold. I don't understand that.
Right. Okay.
It's easily explained. If I had an audience of black people in front of me, it is so easily explained to them. But I think a lot of working class blacks understand it. They see it. The black leadership, and again, that's the wrong word, but the blacks like Jesse Jackson and the black Congressional Caucus, they're in it for votes. They say, well, okay, this may not be so good for my constituents, but these people are probably going to vote Democratic once they get the right to vote. So it's good for me. It's good for me.
Okay, we're down to where there's a couple minutes left. I know I want to thank our crew for helping us out here and making all the difference. And I appreciate your calling in like you did. That has just been,
Been
so
awesome.
helpful.
Been awesome.
And
Well, it's been a real pleasure to visit with you, and I'm always available to come back on, and hope we can do it again.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
I've got lots of ideas to share. 30 years on the immigration beat.
Awesome.
You form your opinions. Let's put it that way.
okay.
Well, thanks so much, Richard,
thanks.
and feel free to call on me again anytime, and I'll look forward to doing it again soon.
Okay, and say hello to Joe Wiedemann.
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'll be talking to her tomorrow, and
the main.
I get to Portland now and again.
Great.
So I will look you up. I was up there last year for a baseball event of all things, and
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
the Portland Old Timers Baseball
Awesome.
Association.
I like it.
Really?
I like it. Get on Oregon Voters Digest too. I'll get you on.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Richard and Bruce. Thanks to you.
Thanks very much, Joe. Good time.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good information.
Great.
I
Bye.
guess we're there.
This was just great, Richard. I really appreciate it. This is really great, Richard. Good information. Good show. Excellent show. And now it's up to the voting public. They've got the information, right?
That's right.
Really great. Really great. Wow. Maybe one of That last name, how you spell that last name? It's almost like Broussard.
DeBellis.
DeBellis.
Oh, let's see. Okay. DeBellis.
Teresa.
Like the bell.
Oh, okay.
Oh, say, hey, we're on. Hey, good. Again, I'm Bruce Broussard, Oregon Voters Digest, and got my guests here with me today. I've got to my right and to your left on the screen, I've got Teresa DeBellis. She's a libertarian from the Libertarian Party. Then we got Richard Carpenter. You know Richard. Richard has his own show. We just left the show,
Yeah,
right?
just
Right,
left
Rich?
the previous
And it's a producer
show.
show, right? And
Right.
he's the publisher producer of that particular show. And every so
Okay.
often he has me on, and now tonight I'm going to have him on my show.
Right.
Or for the producers.
This is your time.
That's right, of the producers show.
Right.
See, so we thought we'd go on and maybe talk a little bit about the whole issue of homeless here in the city of Portland. I mean, it's all over the country, but the fact is, we're going to try to focus a little bit on Portland, and we all have opinions, just like Teresa started me. We're making small talk, and we're saying everybody's got an opinion. Richard said the same thing too, and I'll try to sort of bring some things up because having run for mayor just not too long ago, I was out there on the street and looking at the conditions and the issues that were there, and it was very, very interesting. You know, I saw the homeless, but the one thing that I got out of that running for office, for mayor for the city of Portland, is that we really don't know who's on the street.
Okay.
We really don't know who's on the streets. And then I went and I investigated that even further, and I looked at all of there's entities with their hands out making money on the definition of homeless. I mean, there's all kinds of monies there.
Baking?
No. I'm
Making,
talking about the making money. I'm
Making
talking
money.
about those service providers.
Make a
Oh,
career out of
Service
it.
providers,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's real, you know. And so when you start talking about things like, let's find out who's on the street, well, you would think the first thing you would do, you got to make an assessment of who is on the street.
And why?
And why. And so my suggestion was they figured out it was so many thousands of people and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, my suggestion was, okay, fine, we had a facility that was in the county, actually with the sheriff's department, called Wapato.
Yeah.
And it's just there. It's a beautiful facility. I think it has 300 beds or so in that arena, but it's got some beautiful property around there, and I could see actually taking everybody off the street, especially downtown and whatever, taking them down there and actually put them in there to process. Just basically find out who's on the street. Then disperse them based on the agencies that are out there to service those folks. But that didn't happen. And there was a resistance. There was resistance both by the city of Portland and the county. The county, because the county, you had the sheriff's department. The sheriff was under some issues, if you will. It was basically trying to get rid of the sheriff. That was another political piece that was going on at the same time. But no one wanted to use Wapato.
Right.
No one used one
Well,
time.
there are some mechanical reasons there. Not mechanical, but financial reasons too.
Yeah, but it's a brand new facility. I mean, we're trying to figure
I
out what to
agree.
do.
I
You know
agree.
what I'm saying? As opposed to millions and millions of dollars. You get these folks about, well, let's get this Terminal 1 building, or let's go get this and put a brand new building aspect of it. Millions and millions of dollars that taxpayers won't have to pick up. But here we got a brand new facility, open, ready to take on people.
If they would rent it out to another state that's not too far away to house their prisoners,
Yes.
that's the thing to do. That's where it should go. Because apparently we don't have the prisoners.
No, but
Yeah.
we have the homeless though.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I
see what I'm
think they
saying?
kind of downed that though. I had the impression they pretty much said no.
Well, they say no, but my point is that I'm still asking the question why? Why not? You know, because that's one of the reasons why I ran. That was because that was a concern. Now all of a sudden we got issues in Gresham. You know, there's this walkway where most people tend to ride their bikes and walk and this, that, and the other, and some 300 or so homeless are sitting there and basically having all sorts of problems. There are harassment and, you know, there's robbery, all kinds of weird things.
That's right.
And so we're trying to figure out what are we going to do with those folks. My point is that why can't they just take those folks there and use them? It's a smaller group. Take them over there at Wapato
Yeah.
and process them.
Yeah.
What about that, T? What do you think about it?
I think I'd love to know the reason why.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to answer that question for us? Because it's an excellent question to ask,
think Kafori.
and the reasons why need to be analyzed. Okay, what you're talking about though is you're talking about taking care of the existing situation. Now, I have a lot of personal experience with homeless people because, now I'm going to say this, I don't want to upset anybody, but I did ride TriMet for 13 and a half years, and I was astounded that riding the bus 2 times a day, sometimes for a total of 2 hours a day or more, I couldn't understand how I could ride the same bus route and never see the same homeless people or poor people.
We're always
Do you understand?
changing. I mean,
There were so many.
I didn't
So
know they
many.
bust.
It broke my heart, you see? I mean, I just saw it over and over and over. They get on the bus and they can't pay, and they try to sit down, you know. I mean, you know, because you feel, you see it, you sense it, you feel. These people are on the very, very edge of our society. So I think what you're doing is you're saying, we need to do something now, because this situation is not getting smaller. I think most of us can agree with that. It's getting bigger. And you notice that you're just describing a situation where what used to be a pleasant bike ride path is now a situation where the people are right there in front of you. And
What do they
it's
do?
starting to impinge on your
yes,
sense
exactly.
of safety
Yes.
and your sense of like what
Yes.
our city means and
Right.
what's happening to all of us.
right.
Okay, so it's in our
face,
face.
yeah.
Now that's because we need to deal with it. Now we need to deal with it. We need to deal with it in the way that you're talking about, which is to help the immediate situation, but we need to go deeper than that.
Okay.
Okay?
Give us some thoughts.
Why are there so many people without the basic fundamental resources that a human being requires to stay alive? Why? And why is it that I have them right now? You have them. I assume you have them, sir.
People that work, don't they
People that
usually have?
work.
That's the key. Jobs.
That's
A lot of these people are unemployed.
That's a big part of it.
Unemployed, big time.
That's a big
and
part
we
of
just
it.
got through talking about the whole
mental
issue.
problem?
Yeah,
Mental problems,
I mean,
right,
you know, we got substance abuse, big time.
Substance abuse.
You got me, but primarily, and then we got the immigration issue aspect
That's
of it,
right,
illegal immigration aspect
Yep.
of it, the illegals or whatever. So we've got this, but each service entities are basically identifying that as their way of eating. I always use the word eating aspect of it, but it's their resource. See, people are making money from each of these modules.
That's another problem.
That's
you
the
see?
key. See, no one wants to give up their
Yeah,
funds.
yeah.
You know, you close your doors, and I'll take that. I'll pick those up.
So that's not actually helping the situation.
No.
Would you agree?
Well, when I say the reason why I'm saying that, at least that's a start to figuring out who's on the street and who are the services, if you
That's
will,
right.
the cost, if you will. You got me? And you're right. It is inhuman. It is inhuman. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it starts raining in our area and whatever, and you see these people on the street or sleeping on the street,
Or
I mean,
freezing.
it's right up front, using the restroom right there. You know, anywhere and everywhere and whatever, and it's terrible. And then you've got elected officials who are not responding to it. You know, I mean, in all due respect, you've got the city of Portland. We got a division as far as a commissioner who has that responsibility called the housing department.
Saltzman?
That's right, Dan Salzman. Dan is the housing department. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when the issue first came up, that should have been addressed way back when. That was his job in
But
terms
there's
of
always
finding.
been homeless.
Yeah, but
Right?
yeah, I realize, but not the impact. Like I said, you're right. Maybe it's always been, but they've made it such that, in fact, look, now we need more funds to respond to some of the issues and whatever. So that's why I'm asking that question.
And what do you think about that? That they're asking for more funds?
Well, I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a problem. I think that we need good leadership, and we don't
Where
have
do you get the
leadership.
money?
Well,
Where's the money coming from?
from us. You're the taxpayer.
Yeah.
You
that
got my
right?
point?
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, just like
Yeah.
the housing
I mean,
aspect of it.
I don't know exactly, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty
but
sure.
pretty
it's
sure.
from
When you think
us.
about the housing, that's the big thing now.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah,
about the housing
it is a
aspect
big
of it.
thing.
And you know, in all due respect, there's some sense of segregation there, because they're talking about providing housing for the homeless. And that means that the existing development and the new development, they're asking these new developers, if you will, to provide a portion of those units that they're building to the homeless.
Really?
Yes. And I'm saying, well, hey, until you respond to the issues that the homeless, you're going to have more problems. Because how, and then the people are vying for jobs, and they're coming to this area.
Yeah.
And guess who's going to be basically saying to the homeless, hey, what do you mean? I can't have this guy living right next to me. What about all of the
part of it.
vandalism, all these? So their problems are going to continue to come on, and i.e. asking for more money.
Yeah.
Asking for more money. So what do we do? And that's why I said that I think the lack of leadership is the key, I think, to this whole issue.
In the Tribune, it had a list of all the things that these people were doing. Screaming
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Screaming all night.
Oh yeah.
Stealing bicycles and selling the parts. They had to change the Hood to Coast Run. You can't go through that area. Hood to Coast Run has to switch off. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it takes time and effort. All because these people would block them or create problems for them. So there's a lot of stuff that's...
There is. I like it how you delineated so many different reasons why someone might end up homeless. Some of the reasons why fill me with compassion and sorrow in terms of just how difficult it is for the average citizen right now to make ends meet. I mean, also I heard a gentleman on your show weeks ago was talking about he became homeless because his marriage didn't work. He tried to make it work, and he did the right thing. He left the house at his wife's request, and the next thing he knew, he didn't have any place to live.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, that's just one story.
Just one,
We've got
yeah.
veterans on the street. Veterans,
women,
women
kids,
and
Veterans,
children.
oh,
that's
children.
and
I mean,
children.
it's awesome.
Veterans, it breaks my heart.
Oh, it's
Because
awesome.
what bigger sacrifice
Yeah.
can you make for the country? I certainly didn't stand up and say, go ahead and I'm going to give my life for you, sir, and for you, sir. I didn't do that.
Well, T, you asked a good question, because that was another thing that I was very much interested in, because I happen to be a veteran, and in all due respect, one of the things I was trying to do, that's why I wear this hat, to outreach the veterans aspect of it. And I asked the question when I first filed to run for office, I went to the city and went to the county, can you give me a listing of where the veterans are? Because, you know, there was a point that was made by the city under Charlie Hale, basically saying, okay, we're going to house all of these veterans within a certain period of time. And I kept going to City Hall and say, well, where are they? And the only thing I could get was just some little side explanation, things like, okay, fine, we've housed a few in some of the hotels, some of the vacant properties, and they basically gave tax breaks to some of these folks and this, that, and the other, but for a limited time. See, and I saw that piece, and so I said, well, wait, as a solution to this whole deal, we are very pro veterans, if you will, in our society right now.
Right.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, then I asked that question: why can't we just at least pick up the veterans? At least the police can go to the i.e. when they pick up these folks, are you a veteran? Are you former vet? You know, former military aspect of it. Then pick these people up and take them down to the VA on the Hill. Or if not that, in Vancouver, there's a location there, and they've got, and you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then once they get in, they say, yes, I've got your last four, your Social Security.
You got to have that.
That's right. You're a vet. We've figured it out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And i.e. then once you pick that piece up, then call up the administration. So, you know, either the congressperson that's here or whatever, say, hey, find out, get me some money to house these veterans, because that's what's been told. That's what's being said. So my point is that that could have been solved, as far as I'm concerned. But guess what? When you follow it up, you say, well, how do we get the police to pick them up? How do you get them to take them out physically over there? I say, why not? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the housing authority, again, the city of Portland, and the county, as far as I'm concerned, they should have a list to figure out what's going down with that piece. So now you're talking about housing availability, i.e. money from the federal government to at least house those people. Then whatever's left, then guess what? Then you start talking, there's this whole piece. Or the new developers, for instance. That was the other thing that I had asked. Those folks who are building the high rises and this, that, and with the housing, they've already designated, we're going to have a certain percentage, we're going to have a certain percentage of housing dedicated, if you will, to the low income. Okay, so I said, well, okay, well, why can't you just call those developers back in and say, okay, fine, after you find out, if you go through the processing, we're going to need more beds. You call them in and say, look here, I need an extra 10%.
Yeah.
House them.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. I mean, it was just frustrating, you know, it really was frustrating, and they wouldn't debate the issue.
Yeah.
What else do you say?
I can keep going on. Okay, it gets a little bit tricky when you're trying to decide who deserves it and who doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to find out.
When you start trying to draw lines about, well, the veterans deserve it and the women and children do, but the males don't, and yada yada yada. And I understand that our society is a little bit different and it's weighted toward the power of males. All right, I'm not going to debate all that right now. That's a different show, but that gets a little dicey. What you need to look at, I think, is you need to consider that any solution that you have right now to help them immediately is extremely important, because I can't stand to see one homeless person.
Well, I can appreciate that.
It's not okay in my life to live my life and eat my food and have my bed and have the roof over my head and be safe at night, and have somebody else in Portland not be safe. But then what you're looking at is solving the immediate needs, and then you've got to do the hard work of examining the society, peeling it back and say, what is it that we are not doing as a group, as a whole group, to make sure that everybody has equal access, that everyone feels that they can participate in the society, that everybody feels the self-empowerment to use the opportunities that are available. It also means that we need to have opportunities available. If they're not there, why are they not there? What's causing that issue? I mean, we can peel it back even further. If you're talking to me about this, homelessness to me, my understanding of it, now this is a spiritual perspective, all right, everybody, hold your breath, put on your seatbelt.
No problem.
Okay, not a religious perspective. From a spiritual perspective, homelessness has something to do with, I don't know who I am. Okay, I don't know, where is my home?
Expand on that.
So I don't know who I am. It's a failure of an individual's ability to connect with the potential that lives inside of them, and to want to use the potential to the best advantage of themselves and to the best advantage of the society. Now, it's not that simple, because we've already looked at several reasons where that category might not exactly fit. But I think that it doesn't matter, because anywhere you look at the reasons why all these people are ending up homeless has that thread that connects them. Okay? For some reason, there's a disconnect about feeling your own ability to take care of yourself, and feeling your ability that you want to participate and do well in society. Okay, now there's another issue that goes hand in hand with this, and there's also a category of people that simply don't want to participate and don't want to work.
They just like to stay outside, the fresh air, and they want to do anything.
And that's a whole different reason.
That's a whole different reason.
I've talked to people
but how many?
like that. Yeah,
I get right back down to the same deal. How many? And then all of a sudden, if you've got that particular group pretty well separated, then you can ask them, well, okay, why are you feeling that way? I mean, how did you lose your enthusiasm, if you will, to be a part and assimilate into our way of life? You got to have a job, because if you don't have the job, someone else has to pay.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's you can break that category down even further, because there's somebody in that category who feels joy from not having to live in a house.
That's what I'm saying. But hey,
but
if
guess
that
what?
Person you got to pay your fee.
Exactly.
As one would say, you got to pay your rent.
Right.
Everyone in this society has to pay rent.
If that person is then turning around and saying, "I choose to be homeless," you give me some money. Because I choose to be homeless, I think there's something fundamentally missing in that reasoning. Look at all those categories we just done.
Yeah, but like you said, but another point, remember, we had another category in our society all of a sudden that was kind of like developing, if you will, this assimilation concept, and it is the berry fields. Remember early on when the kids were picking up the berries and this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden the legislature came up there and cut that off and said, oh no, that's inhumane.
Yeah, they're what?
See? And they were picking it up either
they're not 18 or something.
Yeah, something like that, and but they were picking it up either to buy books and supplies and clothing, and that thing that gives you that feeling of I want to achieve something, if you will. But then the other thing, and we again, when I think about the education system now, especially in the city of Portland, we don't have voc ed. There's nothing. Voc ed doesn't even exist in the city of Portland.
Wow.
It's a sad note. and everybody's got to go to college, if you will, to exist.
Yeah, and you end up with huge amount of debt. You can't pay that debt off either.
Gee, that's right.
When
that's
you get
right.
a job, they're telling you when you get out of college, you'll get a job and you'll
Exactly.
get this much money.
Exactly.
A lot of graduates are finding that isn't accurate.
Exactly.
They either can't find the job or they don't get as much money as they were promised. They have huge debt.
Then they become homeless.
Well, we don't want that.
But I've seen people on
Yeah.
the street when I was running for mayor, and I was questioning, hey, they had degrees. You'd be surprised the number of people who have degrees that are sitting out there homeless.
Oh,
because guess
okay.
what? They can't get jobs. No one is talking to them about the careers, if you will, and you know that they're pursuing.
Yeah.
There are no jobs available.
Real low rate.
Yes.
Unemployment rate now.
Oh, very, very much so.
Below 5. Wow.
Well, look, hey, folks, this is what we're doing. We're talking about homelessness, and I've got three experts here that we're trying to figure out what can we do. And I hopefully the elected officials, the leaders, if you will, are listening to us somewhat
right.
and sharing that. Because in all due respect, when you start thinking about how do you communicate to them, if for the city of Portland, it has to be a Wednesday morning during the work day.
Wow.
At 9 o'clock, you know what I'm saying? And from 9 to whatever, and hey, guess what? One, you got to be pretty well wealthy just to sit down there and comment. You got me? And then most people don't read the newspaper. You got me? And we got several newspapers. That's fine. But then, like I said, we got the Oregon Voter. At least we got a public access situation.
Right.
And
right.
But then people can't afford Comcast. Because you got to pay that bill. It's not only
They
just a
can
regular
come here.
station.
Not funny, though.
They can come
They
here.
can come here. They can't come here.
Right.
And luckily for that, but I want to be able to extend this now. As far as I'm concerned, we need to extend this just to the regular rabbit ear kind of a TVP. Do you see what I'm saying? And then at the same time, put the schedule in the Oregonian and the Tribune to let people know what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? You got me? And I know PCM actually does the telecast on the county and the city, but they don't aggressively go out and really outreach to the people to let them know what's going on. We do a good job, Richard. You and I, we do a good job.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right here, right now.
Right, and I'm so excited about the fact that we happen to have a third-party person, the Libertarian, that in fact might be that's being considered right now to be in the debate piece. As for the presidential debates aspect of it, in September. And then we got the Green Party. That's another one that's going to be a possibility. I just hope they do that, but unfortunately, they've got some hoops to go through.
Yeah.
They got to have 15% of the vote, the popular vote, and then I think the Libertarians running about 9 to 12%, and I think the Green Party running about 5 or 6.
Independent?
Yeah, these are was that?
Independent? Isn't that also a party?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but my point is the ones who've qualified, that are basically they got a number of third parties, but the two major ones, that have gotten the kinds of numbers nationwide.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? But then, like I said, I hope they could get in that deal because have you heard anything about homelessness being discussed? The only thing I hear about is back and forth, like a cat fight between two people. I mean, we're not dealing with the issues. That's what.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different subject matter.
We'll talk about that.
That's a whole different. Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And really, the masses are not even being reached or talked to at this point in time.
It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it's only about the 10%. Basically, we're watching both CNN and Fox. That's it. On either
10%?
side, the 10%. It's really a sad note.
Wow.
Because you can even ask the people today who's the president. In some cases, they wouldn't even know who the president is today. That's how sad it is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really sad. But getting back to the subject matter that we were talking about, the homeless situation. The elections are over now. As far as I'm, from the city of Portland, they've pretty well elected the mayor. He's waiting in the wing, if you will, to take the seat. The city. It's kind of interesting how the process. Meaning that he's won. They're talking about some major issues right now, but he doesn't get the seat until January. And what? How many months? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he should be in that seat. If he was elected 1 month, at the end of that month, he should be in that seat. Because the other guy just out there, hey, he's taking his time off, and where's enthusiasm? Don't get me wrong, Charlie spent his 4 years, and he's not interested. He's not motivated. So what? I'm done. I'm done. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What do you think about that? Talking about the homeless problem again.
Yeah,
why
what's
should
his
he?
name again?
Charlie Hill. See that?
No.
See, who's what?
Incoming.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Ted Wheeler. His name is Ted Willard. But my point is, he should be. But he's the treasurer. He's the state treasurer. He's sitting at the state treasurer aspect of it. But some way, shape, or form, you go through this election piece. That's why, and the reason why I'm saying that it should be about a month before he takes the chair. This way, you can keep all those folks at the table talking about the issues. Okay. And then, like we're talking about right now, you'd have, and for the mayor's race, when I ran, it was about 13 to 14 people. Then all of a sudden, the solution is sitting right there with 13 to 14 people. You see what I mean? So we've lost something there. Now, poor Ted, he's up there at the state treasurer. So by the time he comes here, he said, "Well, wait a minute. That's not what we did. That's not what I was introduced when I was running for office. I got all these other issues, and I got Bruce sitting over here at the Oregon Voters Digest. I got to put him on the show, and if he doesn't get on the show, I'll just put him on there. You and I will talk about it, Richard and Teresa. What are you doing? And that's exactly what the media will do. See, that's a very important. It's something that we need leadership, and it's a tough job.
Yeah,
it's a tough job. Who wants to get elected?
Who wants to be a mayor now?
Everybody want to beat up on folks, but there are some folks, you know what I mean? But they check your background. They don't want to run. You got this, that, and the other. And we got a lot of mental illness on the street. We got all kinds of issues out there on the street. Who wants to, because your life is gone after you get elected.
I think the biggest question was who wants to be a police officer now?
Yeah.
It's so many getting cut down out there. It's terrible.
What do you see, if I might ask?
I got a solution.
Oh, good.
I got a solution.
What do you see
what do you
in
think,
particular are the values that we had before, maybe in a more distant age that we might not
beliefs,
be
you mean?
holding on to now?
Yeah.
I mean, do you see a difference now in our attitudes and our values that might be producing homelessness?
No,
okay.
You forgot eviction. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
That's
eviction.
one of them, because that can kind of give a temporary thing. But I'm telling you, I have been feeling Portland has people wanting to help. It has perfect weather. If I was in Idaho or if I was in Arizona, I'd come here.
Yep. That's why
nice.
They are coming.
Yeah.
It's so nice, and people are trying to help us here. So that's
but things are changing, Richard, and that's why we're talking about it, trying to see if we can get the leadership to understand that.
I don't think we can do everything for everybody.
Well, I know that, but my point is that people get elected, they tell the people, well, vote for me, and I can solve those problems.
That's right.
And then we're right back to the same old issues, you know what I mean?
Is that what you're kind of a non-answer?
Well, I was just wondering, from your perspective, if you had, if you saw a difference in what people value. I know one of the things that I believe as a libertarian that I don't hear echoed a lot is the fact, or let's say the ideology that the more responsibility you take, the more freedom you have. Okay. So I don't hear that a lot. I don't see that attitude in people a lot. I see a lot, sometimes now I've as you'll take note with what I've said so far about homelessness, you can feel the compassion in me for all these different reasons why.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to say something that turns it around a little bit.
Okay.
So if you're homeless, we've got that piece too, right?
Right.
But you feel that somebody's going to be there to make sure that you get a home and you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
Okay. But Portland, Portland is full of people with compassion, and it's a beautiful part of being a human being is to have compassion. But if in the back of your mind you're thinking, anytime I put my hand out, somebody's going to give me something, and on top of that, we're protesting for rights now, we're going to get our own place. Well, at a certain point, that doesn't work.
No. What about the other side who has to work to get there? And there was a motivation to get there.
Yeah. So
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I want a home, and that's why I'm working so hard. You know what I mean? For the American dream. A home, a car, and all that other good stuff that goes with it.
One of the things I've heard is they said you have never have a problem getting food in Portland. That's what the guys say.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Problem
That's
eating
right.
and
That's right.
finding food.
That's right.
A meal.
That's right. I've even known some other situations. Just throw it right on out there, as you say, in the table aspect of it. I've interviewed some of the homeless folks and whatever. They say, well, Bruce, with all due respect, all I need to do is if I want to just clean up for a week or two and get medical and maybe do dental and all that other good stuff, all I would do is just walk in the local Safeway or one of the large supermarkets and get myself some meat or something and start walking out the door. They call 911. The police picks them up.
Yeah.
And they take them down to take them down to the jail or whatever is necessary. And during that particular time, they get processed. They got a roof over their head.
Yeah.
They got food. They got bed. They got medical attention at no cost.
Yeah.
And then after they spend the winter in that environment, when the summer gets out, like you're saying, the real nice weather and the trees and this, that, and the other, they can go down to the parks and enjoy with the rest of the folks and this, that, and the other. Well, hey, now I'm out.
Outside, right?
This is beautiful. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to make funny of it, but that's a fact. That's a fact. I interview folks like that.
Yeah.
Say, what am I going to do, Bruce? And I say, well, that's why I'm running.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have some answers, but I got to get elected. But bottom line is that I don't have the money in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the endorsement in many ways, And in all due respect, and I'm going to throw something out because we got about 20 minutes. We want to talk about the police a little bit. I want to talk about that. I think it's very important.
Okay.
Because every state in the union is having their issues about police. Every city, every major city aspect of it. So you say, what is this? I mean, these are law enforcements. These are law enforcement, meaning that the laws that they enforce the laws that we the people tell our leading person to monitor, putting something down right and say these are the laws and the policies that are going to be developed to enforce these rules and regs that we as a people need. Got me? But the bottom line is that the people don't see that in many ways. The police department, the individual who's doing that enforcement, is looked as if, in all due respect, they're the mayor. You see what I'm saying? And I'm saying the way it should, as far as I'm concerned, the way it should be working, in all due respect, the mayor is the spokesperson for the people as a whole.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the mayor, basically, who has his chief of police, will basically, okay, fine, this is what we want, this is what we need. And basically, they say, well, okay, fine. Now, how does that relate to law enforcement, to what we may need, as far as the people as a whole? Then he basically lays out a plan or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes back to the people and says, these are the laws that are going to be enforced. Educate them. I really educate the people about the policy, what the laws are going to be. And if you break these laws, guess what? We've got these entities, if you will, to come to the table. But we're having such a divide between police and the people. Yeah. And then the only way we're going to get back to that, we're going to have that leadership. We're going to have a mayor that is, in fact, our spokesperson. It's like the commander, if you will, so to speak. And then you've got the police department that answers to the public through the mayor. See, and that's not happening right now. It's as if to say, they've made points about, well, we got the union and, they're the ground troops that are actually doing all this stuff, baby care, all kinds of stuff, if you will. And they're saying, gee whiz, look at all the stuff that we've got to do. And then the mayor doesn't know what they're doing. And we're going to put our own guidelines, if you will. And so that's this big fight. See, my thing is that, okay, fine. If a mayor is elected for the city of Portland, they're the responsible party. The buck stops there.
That's right.
The buck stops there. It's not the union, it's the mayor's on. So there's been this divide. So my thing is that, okay, fine, you've got the officers. I learned this when I was running for mayor and then some background stuff. But you've got the mayor who's dealing directly with the chiefs of police and the officers aspect of it. But the people who run the department is the union. Oh. These are people on the ground floor, the union. So to me, my position was, okay, fine, let's make some changes here. My chief of police is going to be the president of the union. Oh. President of the union. See, you understand what I'm saying? And because that's the guy who's dealing with the everyday peace aspect of it, who would know what's going on out there on the streets. And then therefore can we do this law? Can we do this? Blah, blah, blah. Then get back, and they basically say, yes, we can do this, or no, we can't, and this is how we can do it because it's an issue. See, my point, that to me is a solution to a certain degree. And the whole issue about community policing, I'm very familiar with Portland and Northeast Portland and certain portions of Southeast Portland. Guess what? Recruit from those areas. Recruit people on the force from those respective areas.
That's what they were doing in Dallas.
Not recruit outside of the city.
Yeah.
Recruit right there in that area.
Yeah.
I can cite you examples like a gentleman by the name of Harry Jackson. I can cite you some officers, if you will, that came from various areas. Harry Jackson was kind of he was probably about 5'2" or 5'3". he could drive in his own vehicle just by himself. Why? Because he knows the people. He knows the people in his area.
Yeah.
That's right there. But an outsider, in many ways, because it takes them time, and by the time they get to the point where they might know, it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just throwing that out to you. But let's talk about police. What do you think about the whole issue of law enforcement?
Well, I think
We
you
got about
just
7
put your finger right on the pulse of it. You got right to the issue. The issue is that, you've got a situation where somebody is supposed to enforce your conduct, and you better be right in your conduct, or you're gonna,
That's right.
you're gonna have to answer.
That's right.
Now, I mean, there's a lot to that. The part that I love that you highlighted was that the divide between those who are the enforcers and those who are being enforced grows ever and ever, unless you have a situation like the one that you described, where that policeman comes from that community and is known by the community, and the community knows them. There's a reciprocal, positive relationship. Okay, we just don't have that situation anymore. I mean, I'm a libertarian, of course, and we're accused of not keeping our feet on the ground occasionally, but I think that what we're talking about is, again, the more responsibility you take, the more freedom you have. Now, that's a very simple concept, and it might be a little bit intuitively confusing. It might not make sense, but any way you slice it, that's what you're going to get. I mean, that's the basis of what it means to be human. I mean, nobody is really going to make it through the system without coming to terms with that within themselves. Beyond that, they're going to need policing, which is a drain on the society. So where is it that we're not producing citizens? We're not engendering that sort of value and attitude in people. Okay, so there's two issues that I see are the biggest issues. The one you talked about the divide between those, because I mean, it's another job like being a veteran, right? I mean, are you going to ask me? Are you going to call me up on the phone tomorrow and say, "Hey, do you want to give your life today?"
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say, I'm scared of that.
Let me think about
I
it.
don't think I will. What did you say when they asked you?
Well, in all due respect, I said fine, because I understood that I was part of this country. I mean, they had a draft during that particular time. They had a draft, and then everybody was going in.
But you
it
had
was
a
kind
choice.
of a melting pot. No,
You had a choice.
No, it's a draft. No, I mean, hey, everyone had to go.
But weren't there people who were subverting the draft at that time?
Well, only from the stand
Different war.
The different war. It was a different war. Yeah, this war right here. See, but I came here as a Marine recruiter.
Okay.
And then there was a draft system during that particular time. But then they got rid of the draft.
Yeah.
Nixon got rid of the draft aspect of it. To me, that was a melting pot. It was a good melting pot for this country.
I just remember a particular thing about when I was in, that if Eisenhower said to me, "Go get them,"
You did it.
and if you may die,
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
I remember, always remembering
That's right.
that.
Wow.
That's right.
If Eisenhower said,
Wow, look
Yeah.
at that.
Or it
Look who
came
I'm
here.
sitting
or it
between.
Same
came
here.
from him,
Yeah.
that'd be good enough.
Yeah.
That'd be good enough.
You have my deep thanks and appreciation.
And in all due respect, during that particular time, I can still remember the time, the whole issue of race and probably issues among the races. It pretty well, it wasn't the high numbers that you'd normally see that we have in society today. You got me?
Right.
My point is that there was a way, like even in the boot camp aspect of it, you know what I'm saying? If you had racial problems or tendencies, I mean, you'd get it resolved, most of it, within boot camp. Because it was all about what was on your sleeve
Oh, yeah.
and what was on your collar.
So, are you saying that your experience is that after a certain point, it didn't matter what color your skin was?
Well, yeah, because my point is that everybody had, first off, everybody had a job.
Yeah.
Everybody had a job,
Yeah.
okay? And if you had the abilities, you can go right up the ranks.
Yeah.
You got me? Sure, there were some segregated issues at that time, but my point is that if you could shoot better, if you could drill better, if you can, administer better, because it was about the truth, the leadership aspect of it, you got promoted. And so that's why I keep going back to that point. We've lost that melting pot. Now we got more problems with race today
Yeah.
than we've had back. You would think we should be
don't
getting better.
understand
We should have been moving forward.
We should
and
be moving
what
forward.
happened?
It was all
We went
resolved.
backwards.
Well, with all due respect, we forgot the draft. The draft is not here anymore. But people today are saying, I'm not going to be getting into that.
Yeah.
And you say, well, who is? Well, let's just put some button stuff in there. You know, we can just push the button and the rocket goes from point A to point B, and you know, I got a job. I push buttons. You know my point? But the people, you know what I mean? People are losing jobs, and it's like anything else. If you can't eat, if you don't have a means, a way to eat in this in our society, you got one of two options. You go to jail. You go to jail, or you, as you say, you go homeless. You have no. There's no part in our society. You know what I mean? Because we are a what do you call it? The economic capitalistic society. It's a fact. That's the way it is. You got to have a job to exist in our society.
And that's hard
Or you
when,
create jobs
when the
if you're not.
landscape is changing, the
It is.
economic landscape.
It is.
What did homeless do before tents?
Before tents, they had a place to go.
They weren't homeless.
Yeah, they weren't homeless. They had parents, they had cousins, they had uncles, and this, that, and the other.
Really?
I can remember doing the Depression aspect. I remember doing Depression.
Oh, yeah.
You can read about the Depression, and you know, and folks were standing in line, but they were getting the soup line, but they had a place to go. You got me? And in some cases, it might have been homeless, but they had tents, and everybody was there. Everybody's having a good time, and this, that, and the other. But then today, it's a whole different ballgame. I still say we've coined the word homeless.
Right.
But I still say, and I will continue to say, until I know who's on the street, we don't have a homeless problem. We have an economic problem.
Oh,
Somebody's
okay.
making money off that person. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm coming from?
Wow.
It's money driven.
Yeah.
These
Right.
folks don't want to give up
Economic.
their position. It's economics.
Wow. Yeah.
I hate to
Right.
put it there, but that's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Tell
on
me
that
something
note,
different.
yeah, I'll tell you something about
Tell
that.
me something
Go
different.
ahead.
I stayed in I went to college. I took
Excuse me just for a moment.
Oh,
I got to
sure.
make sure we're looking. We're talking about. I've got several guests here. I got Teresa DeBellis. DeBellis. I like that. Okay. And then I got Richard Carpenter. Richard, you know, this is our producer show. I'm on the second half here, and but anyway, we're talking about homeless and this, that, and the other.
Right.
I just want to remind the viewing audience, and then tell your
good
friends to look at the
reminder.
deal. And okay, now what about the shows as far as where's it going to be shown? What are the future shows of this as far as this particular
They
show?
put that up at the halftime. I
Okay,
think.
tell them to put it up now. Let's see if we can pick up the day and time in
okay,
terms
or-
of when the show will be available for the
Sure,
future. There we
great.
go. That's good, great
Wow.
deal. Isn't that something? There it
It's
is.
only up twice.
There you go.
Used to
There it
be
is,
up,
right there. There it is. Okay.
Four times.
There
Now
you
it's
go.
only up
Right.
twice.
Tell your friend. Tell your friends. Just,
But
okay.
I'll tell you, you could call in and ask for it to be on some
Okay.
additional time.
Oh yeah.
So I may do that.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. Right.
I'm
Now,
going to make one point.
as you
about-
were saying, go
okay,
on.
Okay. So
Thanks, guys.
I stayed a long time in college because I wanted to know. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
I thought, well, you're going to let me graduate with this degree in English, but you didn't make me take any history.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a whole year of history. I took a year of chemistry. I took biology. I took all these courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't take economics.
didn't take any.
Oh.
You know why? Because I don't believe in economics.
Really?
No, I
Well,
think
how'd you go to school?
I'll tell you what. It's arbitrary.
Really?
It's arbitrary.
Talk to
It's
me.
a system.
Okay. Oh,
It's a
okay.
system. Somebody says, here, you're worth this much and you're worth that much. And maybe I'm not worth anything, so I got to be homeless.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
See?
We did
Yeah,
come back
that's
to
right.
that.
It's
didn't we?
arbitrary.
Came back around.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah.
Who's
yeah.
deciding that?
Yeah. See, economics,
The people themselves.
people. Now you think about it now.
It's arbitrary. We can change it.
Well, I tell you what. One of the ways we can change, like you're very familiar with the education. Our system has gone to the point now it's gotten a little bit more progressive and whatever and competitive and the like. We've got a system that says, okay, you got 12-year education, right? We guarantee that the best education. But we got a problem with that best education for that 12 years. Now I'm saying we need to add that other 2 years. It's called community college, because if you get out of that 12 system when you get the guarantee piece, you got to pay for that other 2 years. And realistic, it's just another upper high school. You know, it's a high school education aspect of it. So people stay there for about a year, maybe 6 months, and they quit. Yeah, and they become homeless, hurting. You got me? So my point is that they should extend that so-called those formative years from K1 to, let's say, 14. So now you got 14 years, and they could actually integrate some of those courses into that 12-year and give them an associate degree when they graduate during those formative years, an associate degree, but also you'll have a trade as a result of that. You'll have a trade. That way you can at least do blue collar. If you want to go beyond that, then it's you on your own. That's your own butt.
I think that's a
This
great
is called
idea.
community college.
That's right.
I think it's great.
That's
I think it's a
That's
great
right.
idea,
It
Bruce.
wasn't around.
But we're not
a while
pushing
back.
it. See what I'm saying? Because voc ed, like I say, was taken out,
Yeah.
and the community college was great. Had they kept it into the 12-year piece, guess what?
Yeah.
The blue collars would have been there,
yeah.
and you'd be on your own. But nowadays, look at it. Look how many people are going to school,
Yeah.
and people are walking the street with no jobs, got the degree.
Right, we're both blue collar.
That's right.
What do I have on?
Well, we got 6 more minutes. This has been enjoyable. I mean, let's come up with some solution stuff. I mean, anything else on your mind in regards to talk to
All
us.
right, here's a couple of ideas I want to throw out. The more
Go on.
responsibility you take, the more freedom you have,
Okay.
and nobody can take your power away from you. You have to give it to them.
Right.
Wow.
Nobody.
That's hard for me to understand. You better expand on that, please. I mean, I didn't catch on that. Well, what do you mean by that? You give us a late kind of a
It's you
definition.
just gotta sit down and you gotta think about it. There isn't a person on the planet
That's right.
that can take your power away unless you give it to
That's
them.
right.
Okay?
Well,
Good
So
point.
I
Good
understand
a
that.
lot of
better.
us have given our power.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of us.
The vote.
We haven't been thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to think a lot more as a society.
Yeah.
Okay? Instead, we're doing a lot of video games, a lot of
Yeah.
television watching. You know, in my opinion, it's not called programming for no reason at all. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's doing some thinking for you when you're watching TV. Unless you're talking to Bruce Broussard
You're being
and this fine
programmed.
gentleman.
But it's cost money.
Yeah.
It's all about economics. You know,
Right.
when you, as you say, video games, you hit it right up the point. See what I'm saying?
We're paying a heavy price
Oh,
for
it's-
that
it's huge.
as a society.
It's huge.
We used to think a lot more, along about 40s, 30s, maybe before that. We kind of slowed it down. We slowed it down. We slowed it down,
yeah.
and then it became just business as usual.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not expected to think. You're not expected. You know what is the voter turnout rate?
Oh, gee.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, guess
Who
what?
can explain
well,
that?
most of the people in our society who are of voting age can't even read the voters pamphlet.
Oh,
I mean, that's how bad it is. You know what I mean?
is it
But
out
there's
yet?
a big price to pay for
Yeah,
that.
you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone has a vote. Like you said, that power. They can't take, but they can take it away now. They can do it on advertising and whatever.
If you give it to them.
Yes, but guess what though? During the election cycle, you can say anything you want. You can lie, you can cheat, or anything.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is buy that ad. You can lie, you can do anything you want during that particular time. If a person say, well, gee, they're lying against me, in all due respect, the media a lot of times say, okay, fine, you want to buy an ad? But now after the election is up for grab. But during that particular time, we've lost it.
So you're saying that anybody can say anything?
See anything.
Yeah.
Now we did at one point in time, we was talking about voter-owned election at one point in time, but then you got the fine line was sort of made it such that it was sort of somewhat corrupt, in all due respect. And I saw that too, but voter-owned election does make a lot of sense. Now whether or not we can dot the I's and cross the T's, you know, meaning that they're limited in terms of this is how much money that you can spend on the election is pretty well controlled by the people.
Yeah.
You got me? And then in some cases, then that way, then you rule that in fact whatever you write or whatever you put in an ad, you're liable for that piece. It's vetted to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, and that in fact that it does, if you will, offers a solution.
Yeah.
So when it's printed, you know, bang, 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 bang. But
I think
don't
we
have that.
attempt to do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what the
Interesting.
media tries to do.
Well, like I said, it's about the ad. It's still about the ad. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what we're doing right now with the president's election. Rather than talk to issues, you can say anything you want to say.
Yeah.
Remember that, right?
Yeah.
We got
And
the
then
president's election. You can lie. You can do this and then that. Then somebody come in. Oh well, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
This is what I meant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then, like I said, maybe the media is somewhat more responsible for an aspect of it.
Also, I mean, you're talking about how we elect our leaders. You were talking
Yeah.
about, you started talking
Yeah.
about leadership.
That's right.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
that's the key.
It's all about leadership.
Yeah.
So what is right about a system in which you can't run for president of the United States unless you have $1 billion?
Yeah, yeah.
There is something very broken about that.
Well, a lot of folks
Costs more
do.
than 50.
See, a lot of folks are running now, but guess what? They don't have the money to buy the
They're
ad.
not being heard.
They don't have the money.
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience that I've witnessed, I've been a libertarian for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Our candidates have been shut out of media debates
Wow.
repeatedly.
But hopefully they'll get them on the
For no reason that we can think of.
And that's money.
Oh, okay.
It's
I should have called you up and asked you.
It's called money. If you got $1 billion in the bank, if you can raise $1 billion, you can get your candidate out there.
Do you gentlemen agree with me? Is that a system that's going to produce the best leader for us?
Which one? Right now?
A system that we have right now,
No.
in which you
No.
need to have all
No.
that kind of money?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No, I really
I mean,
don't.
I don't think it does
no,
either.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I mean, what is the motivation of a person having $2 or $3 billion in the bank to want to run for office? I mean,
Got everything.
when you can do anything you want to do, what else do you? I mean, that's the dream.
But they also use that as an argument to say that, oh, therefore this person, it has to be true that because they're doing this of their own volition, they must be a good person.
Well, then tell the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what
But
I'm
you
hearing
see,
from
yeah.
Gary. Tell
Yeah.
the truth. I mean, in all due respect, where's your tax return?
And that's, you know,
What about those emails, if you will? I mean, if you had 40,000 of them, then put them on the table.
Character.
But guess what? During that particular period, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You get me? All right, gee whiz, look
got
like we got 1 more minute here.
What are we
This
gonna talk about,
This has
Bruce?
been great.
It has.
This has been really great. It's
You've
been
done very
instructive.
well.
But you did well on that first show. That immigration piece was great, and I hope that folks will tune in to that
That was
particular
without
show.
the material.
That was some good. That was a
Nice.
good
Oh,
show.
I want some information
solid,
about
whatever.
that.
Well, if you can put those scheduled times again on there real quick. We only have 48 seconds, 46 seconds. We'll just let you run that, and we'll just kind of put that on the screen while you're closing us up. There you go, sir. Thank you very much. Boy, I tell you, that crew in there, boy, there's something else. And one of them I don't know. That was the one that I had problems with. But anyway, it's a good job. Crew, thank you very, very much for helping us out. And thank you all. And thank you very much.
Right.
It's been great. Richard, always a pleasure, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a sound. That's a sound.
Boy, I missed a good show. That
Oh yeah, it was good.
immigration.
And continue. By the way, we got about, but continue to, in all due respect, to support Portland Cable Access, right? PCM.
That's sure.
Yeah, please
That's us.
continue to support us because you'll get the truth here. That's a fact. Take care. See you next time around. Have a good one.